There are two secrets to our business plan for our new CardsHQ shop that we're opening in Atlanta that people don't know yet. Now, one of them we've talked about a little bit, but I don't think people understand the impact and the importance of one part of our business and what that's going to look like when we open. The other secret, it's still a secret. We're going to tease it a little bit today, but you're going to have to wait on that one. But we are diving deep into the first secret in our business plan today, the main way that we believe we're going to make money at CardsHQ. And we're also going to update you on our buying extravaganza going all around the country and buying out dealers worth of cards, entire dealer tables worth of cards at card shows. It's been a fun last few weeks, and let's get you caught up now. I'm going to bring in Carter and Ryan from my CardsHQ team. Hello, and here we go for the Geoff Wilson Show. Carter and Ryan, welcome back to the show. What a crazy month it has been since the last time we got together and did one of these.
Yeah, it's been an unreal month, Geoff. It's not a lot of sleep, right, Ryan?
Right. I mean, I was looking at all the stuff we've done this month, and man, we have a laundry list to talk about today.
We got a lot of things to talk about today, and I want to start today's show by talking about probably the most important element in our business plan. And I've heard some commentary. There's other YouTubers talking about our store and everything like that. And they're all missing something. They're missing something big because they're saying, why in the world would we open such a large card shop? And they're looking at, how much we must be paying in rent and how many people could possibly come through the door in Atlanta. And what they're missing is that while the people coming through the door in Atlanta are very important, we're planning on that only being a smaller portion of our overall revenue. We are delving heavy into live selling, so much so that we have set up the entire store as a studio. All parts of the store have the capability of being live streamed with live selling taking place in the actual aisles of the store. And we want to get to the point where we're eventually doing that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that doesn't even include the fact that we have 6 individual studios set up for breaking and live selling right on the edge of the show floor as well. In addition to our sports card investor studio, which is also on the edge of the show floor, in addition to our featured breaking arena, which is also going to be live streaming. We are going to be doing so much live streaming, live selling, breaking from this store that we are getting fiber optic run directly into the store, fiber optic internet. They're bringing a big fiber optic pipe directly into the store so that we have just the maximum possible bandwidth to be live, literally 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 live streams at a time, all taking place. That's where we want to grow into. And we're not going to be doing that day one. Day one, we're going to start off with a few live streams and doing live selling on a few different streams at a time. But it's our goal to grow over time and to grow into using all of that live streaming capability. And as we work towards that, it's also our goal that we see our revenue mix go heavier and heavier and heavier in the direction of live selling. It's our mission that we've talked about to be the world's local card shop. And what that mission means is that we're going to take the experience of walking in the doors of CardsHQ and make that experience available to anybody anywhere via live streaming, which also means that we have the capability of selling cards to anybody anywhere via live streaming. And that's why we are so bullish on that part of the business plan. And that's why we need the space that we need. This is a much bigger business plan than just a local card shop. Carter, you and I have been doing some of this live selling. We just did the virtual holiday card show on Whatnot. and on YouTube. But the Whatnot part, we were actually selling cards. Last month, we participated in the big Whatnot card show that they did back in November, and actually we sold $50,000 worth of cards that night.
Yeah, 500 cards total.
500 cards total. Actually sold for over $60,000. And these streams are just kind of a small taste, right? This is almost the reason we did these under the CardsHQ shop account and whatnot, because we wanted to prime the account and we wanted to kind of get a taste and a feel for what the live selling is going to be like. I don't think you had done live selling previously. These were some of your first live selling experiences, right? What is that like? And now, having gone through a couple of live selling, like real world experiences, how do you see that translating into what we're trying to do with CardsHQ?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I was very focused on just kind of being myself, right, and kind of having fun with it. I think, you know, the entertainment part of it is so important. I mean, we're hiring all these roles. We need people that are entertaining and engaging, right? So the live selling thing can be challenging. It's not easy to kind of be behind a camera or in front of a camera, sell cards or sell anything. So I know we've done this now 3 or 4 times, you and I have, and obviously the in-store experience that we're going to kind of talk more about is a little different than sitting at a table and a desk selling cards in front of a camera. But I think for me, just being myself and being fun and being educated on sports really kind of put me ahead.
Yeah, you had a great vibe on camera. You did a great job. We're definitely in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
When it comes to live selling, and this is a big part of the business plan. Again, I'm not sure people are quite thinking this way. We are in the entertainment business. Doing a good job of live selling is about having the right personalities on camera who can really, build audience, communicate with audience. People want to hang out with them, because the live selling environment that I want to create, and others have already done a great job at this, is one where you are drawn in and you like spending time. The person on the other side of the camera, you feel like they're kind of your friend. You feel like they're kind of your buddy. And there's a lot of breakers. I'm going to use Backyard Breaks as an example. They get a lot of crap because their style is maybe crass. Some would consider it to be crass,
Very
right?
different.
It's different, right? And it's not my personal style. Like I'm not taking my shirt off and waving it, and I'm not a Backyard Breaks customer, but I respect what they're doing. And obviously they're unbelievably successful at what they do. And I respect what they do. And I fully recognize that what they're doing is providing entertainment. They're providing entertainment. People want to log in. The people who are customers of theirs feel a connection, feel an affinity. They are entertained when they look at the stream. And they enjoy hanging out there. They want to spend their evening there. And as they spend their evening watching the stream, they hopefully spend some money and buy into some of the breaks. And that's why Backyard Breaks business has gone the way that it has, right? And I think, every breaker to an extent has a different style and a little bit of a different connection with the audience. But there are some that really stand out as they've really kind of carved a niche for themselves and have built a really big following. Backyard is one. We want to be one, not in the same style as Backyard, but we want to be our own style. And so we're placing a lot of emphasis on hiring for these live seller roles and trying to be very particular about who we're getting. Maybe we talk about that process a little bit, because the 3 of us have been part of those interviews, and we've had now several live sellers and breakers who we've interviewed who have applied through our CardsHQ shop, or cardshq.com website, I should say. Talk about the interview process and some of these, folks who we've hired so far.
Yeah, so we've received an overwhelming amount of applicants for every position, but especially live sellers and breakers. So the first step of the process is that Ryan and I would do a virtual interview. And then at that point, we would break it down further. And I mean, we've probably interviewed well over 50 people for this role. And then, we brought in our favorites to meet with you and us too in person here at our office here in Atlanta. And, we kind of put them through a cool little stress test, which was kind of cool to see how they would interact on camera, kind of, I feel like they really had to embrace it. We threw it in our Whatnot setup. If you've seen our Whatnot streams, either during the virtual holiday card show or on the Whatnot card show, we threw them in our setup, and we just kind of did a little test stream. We gave them a stack of cards, and we told them sell us the cards, and we were in the other room watching them. It was really cool to see who really embraced it and who was kind of different and who kind of made themselves stand out.
Ryan, I'm curious, as you watched these people actually go through the live test that we give them, they come in for an interview, and then we sit them down and we say, you got a live sell, you got a break, you're live now on Whatnot, go. And we're watching them, right? Did it surprise you, like some of the people who maybe you had high hopes for didn't do so well, or the people you weren't sure about did really well? What was that like for you evaluating it?
Yeah, I mean, during the phone screens, there was a couple guys that really stood out, really charismatic and great personalities. And then we got them onto the set, and it was like, oh man, this guy isn't captivating. They're not going to draw attention of our audience. But funny enough, it went the opposite way too. Some of the guys that weren't, the best in the phone screen, they came in here and absolutely wowed me. I mean, they did an amazing job.
Yeah, I agree. It's, one of the things when I interview, really for any role, but particularly for a role like that, I want people to feel a little bit of pressure. I always it's kind of one of my interviewing tips. Like if someone said, how do you conduct a good interview? And one of the things I would say is put the candidate under a little bit of pressure. Because if, some people are very good at answering interview questions. Some people are very good at sitting there and, having the right things to say in an interview. That doesn't always translate to them being very good when you put them in the actual role. I found that if you can get the person under a little bit of pressure in the interview, then you get a little more of a real insight into how they're going to perform. And with these live seller and breaker roles in particular, we wanted to put them under pressure by making them do the very thing that they would have to do for us, which is sit down and do it. But we made it even a little tougher on them in the fact that it was literally like, okay, sit down here, go live. Like they didn't have much time to prep.
So it was a surprise. I mean, we didn't tell them till literally I walked them back here.
And they didn't know how to use the setup. Like our production team, Kelly and Charles gave them a quick little primer on like this button does this button does this thing does this, and now you're kind of live. Here's a stack of cards, sell them. That's literally what we did. Nobody was in the stream. It was a private stream. The only people that were in the stream were us watching, but they had to sell the cards. Yeah. And so putting people under a little bit of like a real world scenario, a little bit of pressure like that, it's interesting to see, how people react, and some kind of rise to the moment. And when you see that, that gives us confidence that, okay, this person did really well. They showed up well on camera. They were entertaining. I laughed. I was drawn in. I liked their personality. They knew sports well. They were able to give commentary. That was the other thing. They had to give commentary on the fly about a stack of cards we handed them. They didn't know what cards they were going to get. Different sports, different players, different eras. They didn't know these cards in advance. They didn't know these players in advance. I mean, think about that out there in the audience. Like, how would you be if somebody walked up to you and gave you just a whole stack of cards and said, describe these cards, sell me these cards, go? How would you be? Some people would instantly kind of be able to be like, oh yeah, okay, this one, this is this, and this is this. And even if you don't know the card, you know enough to talk about the player, or at least fake your way through it, right? And others were like, I've never seen this card before. I don't know anything about this card. How am I going to sell this card? I don't know a lot about basketball, and I got a basketball player. And then, it was a lot more difficult for them. But that's the real world scenario. Like, we want the people who can, go to any showcase in our store and can describe and talk about anything that they see in there. And even if it's something that they don't know intimately, for them to at least have enough understanding of the sport or the team or the player, or in the case of TCG, like the character or the set or the general significance of what they're looking at, to be able to describe it and on the fly sell that to people. It's a talent. It's like an artistic talent that some people have just right out of the box, and it's harder for other people. And so we're very much wanting to find the people who have that natural charisma and draw. And that's what, that's kind of what we've been doing through the interview process. Carter, let's talk about a little bit about the type of live streaming that we want to do in the store. And because we want, like, this is obviously such a important part of our revenue plan. We're not just planning on sitting back and being in a studio doing breaking or live selling in the traditional way, right? We have multiple methods. And why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's three different methods. The first one is breaking. And, we are still kind of working through that process strategically. I think we're leaning into, yeah, we definitely want to do team breaks. We definitely want to do personal breaks, right? And we have the space to do both potentially. We'd like to do both eventually, but we got to start one route. The other one is kind of what we did during the virtual holiday card show was the auctions aspect, right? Value auctions out of the studio, selling cards more traditionally, just like other streamers. You're kind of sitting at a table selling cards. And then the most important aspect of our business is the selling in the aisles, like we've talked about. And you kind of touched on it. Like a lot of people don't really understand what we mean by that. Ryan and I get a lot of questions at card shows. That's like the biggest question we get. Like, you're going to be live 24 hours. You're selling from your aisles. Like, what does that mean? We touched in our video about these special showcases we developed, and the cards are being vertical instead of being flat. And, so we're able to take a camera and go up and down showcases and show these cards. And the primary focus is that, obviously you touched on entertainment, right? And how these live sellers need to be entertaining, but that kind of wraps into the customer experience, right? And, going to a local card shop, wherever you're from, is an experience. Like, people enjoy going to hobby shops. And so we want to replicate that hobby shop experience virtually online, for then you can shop just like you're shopping in the store. Like if you come in the store, you're going to see the same cards that you're going to see virtually on our 24-hour live stream. So for us to replicate that experience and being able to sell to you what we would sell to a customer here in Atlanta is the biggest part of our business. And so we're really excited about doing this.
Yeah. And we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
We're exactly what that's going to look like. We are, one of the, so I talked about one of the really important elements of this working being the talent on screen. Another very important element to this working is having the production setup. And one thing that Sports Card Investor has been known for since we started is, well, I should say, once I brought in professionals, having the best production quality out there in the hobby. We have the best production team, without a doubt. The stuff that we put out, the video that we put out on YouTube, on social, etc., it's the best looking, it's the best produced, it's the best storylines. And that's because I got a lot of really, really talented production people working for me that put that together. So when we came up with the concept of doing the card shop and really leaning into the online selling aspect, I said, this has got to be the best looking, best produced live selling experience of anything that exists today. We have to raise the bar. People have to watch our streams and say, that looks awesome. Everything about it looks awesome. It's well produced. It's well edited. It's captivating. And the live selling in the aisles being a big part of that. So, we're figuring it out. We've got sitting up here in our office, we've got lots of boxes
boxes.
We got all this boxes of equipment, all this different types of video equipment, lighting. There's a unique set of challenges selling from your aisles. And that is that you've got to have the capability of streaming from anywhere in the store. So we literally are developing these mobile rigs that have enough battery power to be able to power a streaming computer and camera systems and audio systems for 24 hours. And they got, lights, and you're literally pushing a rig through the store, and, and really high quality cameras, really high quality lighting, really good ability to stream from this, multiple monitors. So the person talking can, still interact with the chat, and someone's helping, kind of get this in place and also interact with everything that's going on. So these are things that really have never been done before, and never really been done quite how we're trying to do it, not just in the sports card world, but I think in any form of retail. And one of my goals, I haven't talked much about this, but one of my goals for this shop is that what we do from a live selling aspect will become inspirational, not just for other hobby shops, not just for others in the sports card industry, other breakers and hobby shops to look at our setup and go, oh, that's pretty cool. They're doing some unique things there at CardsHQ. I should try to adapt that. Not just the hobby, but I hope that what we're going to do is special and unique and successful enough that other types of retailers in other industries study it. I would love to see boutique clothing stores and eyeglass stores and sporting goods stores, any type of retailer. I would love them to look at what we're doing and say, why aren't we selling from our aisles? You know, what's going on at Home Depot between 9 p.m. at night when they shut their doors and 7 a.m. in the morning when they open their doors again? Why isn't Home Depot selling from the aisles? Why isn't Macy's selling from their aisles? Why isn't Prada selling from their aisles? Why aren't these retailers of all types live in their own stores selling from their aisles to people? They're not. They are more so in other countries. And part of the inspiration for this is the success of live selling in countries like China and India, where this is huge. I mean, so much so that there's like in China, they've set up basically kind of entire shopping malls that are virtual shopping malls where the stores in the mall are 100% designed to be live selling live on different apps at nighttime. China, India, some other countries are way beyond where we are in the US with live selling. And I see what they're doing over there. I think Korea is pretty advanced as well. I see what they're doing over there, and I see what is starting to happen over here with apps like Whatnot and Fanatics Live and eBay Live now getting into it, and TikTok shopping, which is huge, going to be massive, growing leaps and bounds. It's starting to hit here. I mean, those apps are creating a market for it, and it's definitely growing. But I think it's still small in its growth curve. And collectibles in many ways is leading the way, which is really cool. Like if you go on an app like Whatnot, they do have sneaker sellers, they do have handbag sellers, they do have makeup sellers, but very few, like compared to sports cards, and TCG, trading card games, tons of sellers of those. So collectibles is kind of leading the way, but I see this spreading across retail to many different categories. And I think that it's not all going to be just about selling in a studio off to the side. I think it's going to be, how do you take the retail store experience and merge the retail store experience with an online live selling experience 24/7? That's what I think the future of retail is in America. And I think in many ways, CardsHQ is the future of retail in America. I think we're going to set a standard. And I know people out there probably think I'm crazy or egotistical for saying that, but I'm telling you, I think we're going to do something really special at CardsHQ that is going to be looked at and studied by people in other industries. And I think you're going to see retail change in America over time. And hopefully we're part of the inspiration for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, people were like, I think one of the biggest comments we got is like, retail's kind of dying. You got massive companies like Amazon and even eBay that just take a lot of the marketplace. And, for us, I think to be a difference maker for just cards in general is so important to Ryan and I. But I think, like you said, I think we can touch other industries and inspire others as well.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be really exciting. I can't wait to get live. We're looking at trying to open up our store at the end of January with the Culture Collision Show. Might probably be a bit of a soft opening. We're going to do our grand opening probably around the middle of February. And when we do our grand opening is probably around then when we really are getting going with our live streaming. So it won't be, this won't be day one, and this will all be a work in progress. Like it's, what it looks like the very first day is not what it's going to look like on day 90 or day 180. It's going to get better over time. We're going to learn how to do it better. We're going to improve what we're doing. We're going to, get into better patterns and, ways of doing it. We're also going to do it more and more hours over time, probably utilize different streaming services. We're still, obviously right now figuring out there's a lot of good apps. There's Whatnot, who obviously we're big fans with and have a great business relationship with, but Fanatics Live obviously is associated with Fanatics, and we're also have a great business relationship with Fanatics and Tops. So that's an important one. TikTok is coming onto the scene with TikTok shopping, and eBay, who we've had a good relationship with as well, eBay Live. So, and then you've got others like, Loop and Drip and Network so we're still trying to figure out the mix and the hours and all of that will be expanded over time, what we're doing and where we're doing it. But I'm excited to get started. And, we'll probably that first week or two of February, we'll probably start going live for the first time. I'm excited to get started and to start on this journey. But for it to be successful, it's not just the talent and not just the production, but it's also having the inventory. And that in the sports card world is a massive challenge, because it's not like if you want to fill the store and our ability to live sell with, thousands and thousands of cards, it's not like you could just call up Tops or call up a distributor like Southern Hobby and say, hey, send me thousands of cards. I'll buy thousands of cards, but I need them all at 70% of comps so that I can make a 30% profit margin on it. You can't just call up and do it, right? That doesn't exist. So how you have to do it is you have to find creative ways to go get that inventory by buying it off of people who currently have it, by buying it off of a ton of different individuals who currently have it. And Ryan, that's been a lot of your focus over the last couple of months. Carter as well. You guys have been working on it obviously together, but Ryan, you've led the buyout of some dealers and you've seen some different things at different card shows. So I want to go back to the Palm Beach card show. That one was, I guess, about a month or so ago now. What happened there? Because I know that was kind of a big moment for our inventory.
Yeah, so when we got there, we got to our table. We were in the far back of the room. So I was like, Carter, let's shift our strategy. I'm going to walk around the show floor. You stay here at the buying station. I'm going to look at every dealer here and see what they got. We looked at our inventory strategy. We're missing vintage baseball cards. So I'm like, I'm going to go see what kind of vintage dealers are here. Walked around and I met this guy who's now my friend. I mean, I spent the whole day with him. I sat down and I was like, hey, you got 12 showcases here. I'm literally interested in all of them. Hall of Famers like Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, Satchel Paige, Jackie Robinson. I mean, every single card was graded as well. A lot of worry with vintage is authenticity. Went up to the table, all of them were in SGC slabs. They were all in PSA slabs. Didn't have to worry about them being counterfeit. So I sat down and I said, if I buy everything, can you take 70%? So we sat down with him. I comped out every card using market movers and eBay sold listings, and we reached a deal. So then, believe it or not, he was like, hey, there's more at my house. So this is kind of a funny story. We ended up going to his house that night at 2 a.m. And we walked into his house. His whole house was pretty much a vault because his collection was absolutely amazing. We walk in and he's like, yeah, I got cards in this cabinet, and he's got cards in this room, and he's opening his kitchen cabinets and there's cards in them. And I'm not talking junk. I'm talking Wayne Gretzky rookies, Michael Jordan rookies, vintage, great condition. So we ended up doing a massive deal with him, and I hope that we can go back out there to his house again and make another deal.
Yeah, that's incredible. And a couple interesting things from that story, right? So, I mean, first of all, just the fact that you were able to find a dealer that had that many cards of a type we needed, and you were able to do a big buyout like that. I mean, that's so helpful when trying to ready for a store like this where we need so many cards. We've been going to these card shows and setting up our booth to buy, but it's difficult to ever get the quantity we actually need when people come up and sell us cards one by one, which a lot of the people do. A lot of people walk up to the table and they're like, hey, I got these 2 cards I'm trying to sell. Are you interested? Yeah, we'll buy them off of them if it's a good price. But, we got to buy 10,000 cards to get this store open, right? So 2 at a time takes a while. So if we're able to go and get a dealer to sell us a whole bunch of cards all at once, that's obviously extremely helpful. The other really key thing, I think, to what you said is our inventory strategy. We really needed vintage baseball. And one thing I want to relay to the audience there is it's not just buying 10,000 cards to get our store open. It's about buying, 500 vintage baseball cards, 2,000 modern baseball cards, 300 vintage football cards, 2,000 modern football cards, 50 vintage soccer cards, 500 modern soccer cards, or whatever the ratios are, right? Sport by sport by sport. And then also through the different trading card games, we've got to have a mix of everything, a well-balanced mix of everything. So if a hockey collector comes in the store, we've got some hockey. If an F1 collector comes in the store, we've got some F1, right? If someone's looking for golf cards, we've got some golf cards. If someone's all vintage, we got enough vintage. If someone's only ultra modern, we got enough ultra modern. That makes it even more complicated because now we've got to look by category. We got to break down what we're buying by category and make sure that we've got an assortment of each. And so the fact that you were able to find a guy that really filled our need for a particular category that we were light in, that was pretty critical as well.
Yeah, I mean, we also got a lot of vintage football out of the deal too. I forgot to mention that, but we're still lacking on vintage basketball.
Okay.
So that's a strategy that's going to go into the future shows.
Yeah, so vintage basketball. All right, we got to get our hands on some vintage basketball. Maybe someone out there watching's got a big vintage basketball collection and wants to make a deal with us. By the way, if they want to do that, what's the best way for them to reach out to us?
I think the best way is on Instagram right now currently.
Yeah.
Or you can email buy@cardshq.com.
Okay. Yeah, our Instagram is CardsHQ shop. Okay, so that was the Palm Beach card show. You went, Ryan, by yourself. It was right around Thanksgiving to the Silicon Valley card show, right? What was that experience like?
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what to expect. It was a show at a mall. The last time I've been to a mall show was 10 years ago back in college. They had one at my local mall in Springfield, Missouri. And I used to go to that show. It was a great time, but it's usually not a great show. It's kind of a mall show, there's a limited amount of tables. Well, we went with, $25,000 and I had a goal to spend it all, but I wanted to stay true to the roots, stay at, 70% of comps. And I started walking around and, I didn't recognize any of those dealers. Sometimes on these circuits where we're going to the Dallas card show, a Philly show, I mean, you start to recognize the same dealers. And granted, we're building relationships with some of those and doing deals, week in and week out with them, but seeing a whole new variety there. I mean, I didn't recognize any of the cards. Sometimes you go to a show and you recognize the cards at the dealers' tables. Like it was all fresh inventory. So I made it a goal. It was actually larger than I thought. It covered a big part of the mall. So that was great. But went up to every table, asked them what they could do, and if they can liquidate some at 70%. And it started off slow. We're just getting, 2-3 cards there, here and there. I was starting to get disappointed, Then I met this guy and he was a huge Bowman baseball collector, all prospects. And I was telling him I'm from Atlanta and he's like, oh, I have a card I got to show you. He pulls out the Ignacio Alvarez Superfractor, along with, a blue, a speckle. He had, partial rainbow going. And I'm like, oh man, this is probably out of my budget, but I'm going to do some research. And I went back and I was like, well, what are you asking? And he was asking quite a bit of money. Ended up talking to him, negotiating all day. Ended up buying a lot off of him. So I ended up getting a really good deal. I made some phone calls to some people that I would know would be buyers of that cards from here in the Atlanta area, and ended up pulling the trigger on the deal and getting it. And I think that was one of my favorite purchases so far, just because he's the top Braves prospect. If we were to get that card here as a walk-in, it would probably come from a Braves collector. A Braves collector is going to want to hold that. Finding it all the way in San Francisco, California, the top Braves prospect, buying it, and we'll have it at CardsHQ is amazing.
That's wild. That's a really cool story. Yeah, that's great. And you never know what you're going to find when you go to these card shows. And that's an interesting point as well. The smaller shows are like a totally different crowd. I went to a local show in Denver. This was a fun experience. Denver has the I think it's called like the All Cards,
All Cards Weekend.
Yeah, All Cards Weekend. That's a bigger show. I know Mike from Mike Stadium Sports Cards has historically been involved in that. That's a cool show, and I've been out to that one before. But then they have like a little smaller one, like I think it's like monthly or something, just in the ballroom at a local hotel. It's like the one we have here in Atlanta at Windy Hill. It's just a small little show, and I just happened to be out there and needed to kill a little bit of time on a Saturday, so I popped into the show. And it was fun because like it was all these smaller dealers that don't go to any of most of them have never been to Dallas or anything like that before. And I popped in, and it was funny because people thought some people thought they saw a ghost. They're like, "What are you doing here? Like, why did you come to this show?" Versus like going to Dallas or one of the big shows. I'm like, "Hey, I happen to be in Colorado and was going to go skiing and wanted to pop in and just see a local card show." It was fun, and you'd see different stuff there, as you said. One thing at that show that I saw. At the time, of course, this was well before we decided to go forward with CardsHQ, or I would have probably been buying, but they had some dealers that had really extensive collections of patch cards, really nice patch cards, like National Treasures and that kind of stuff, of players who are way out of the league and you've never heard of. But that's all that like was his entire table. And they were all like, $20. And I was like, but the patches were so cool, and I was like, this is a really cool table. And my son Reeves was with me, and he went crazy on that table because he's like, he bought a 1-of-1 of like some Eagles draft pick. It was like 2014 National Treasures. It was the whole like Philadelphia Eagles logo. $25 for a 1-of-1 of some guy who was never made it in the league, was in the league for a year or something. You wouldn't even know his name. You wouldn't recognize him. But it's his National Treasures rookie, crazy cool patch, $25. And so it's like the eye appeal of his table was unbelievably high because it was all patch cards. And so it was like, this is an awesome looking table. And it was all affordable because it was guys who, weren't in the league anymore. But like, what a cool angle for a card table that you would never see that at Dallas, but it's like here that's what you would probably see it at Dallas, but all the cards would be, $3,000 each of guys who are actually in the league. And here it was like a total different thing. So you never know what you're going to find at those local card shows. Okay. Final card show I want to touch on before we wrap up the episode is the Philly show. Cause we just got back from the Philly show fairly recently. And people are going to see this. I think it's going to be this Sunday night on the Sports Card Investor YouTube. This is crazy. We bought out an entire dealer table at the Philly show, kind of like what you did in Palm Beach. But this one was a big variety of stuff, and it was a ton of cards. And that was like kind of an all-day thing. You led the way, Ryan. You found this table and kind of led the way. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like what you were saying, the eye appeal at that Denver show. Walked up to the table. There was no filler cards. I mean, it was all autographs, patches, relics. The guy was pretty particular about getting game used. Nice products like Flawless, National Treasures, on-card autos was a focus. I mean, we did get some sticker autos, obviously, but I walked up and he had a Ronald Acuna. This was the night before. And he had a Ronald Acuna Color Blast, which is super rare. I mean, Pop 14 and PSA 10. Negotiated with him with that, and was noticing all his other cards. And granted, he had a lot of Braves too, which we obviously need here in Atlanta. That stood out to me. Huge Brave section, and I was like, "Would you consider selling all of this tomorrow?" And he was like, "Oh, I'd have to, call my wife and see if I want to sell it all, because trying to recoup all this inventory, I might have to leave home more and go get this more inventory." Because he actually has a booth at the National. Yeah. And he was like, "I don't know if I can get this much inventory before July." So we ended up looking at all the cards, made him, a fair offer, and he accepted it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We had to spend, so you guys are going to see the whole story of this on the Sports Card Investor YouTube this Sunday. Definitely tune in because it's going to be a fantastic video. It was kind of an all-day affair, right? Because it was looking at the collection, pricing cards out, understanding what our offer was going to be. Then you present the offer. There was a little bit of negotiation on that. And then it was, okay, we're going to do this, but how much money are we actually talking about here? Because the offer was made basically on a percentage basis of the entire table, but none of us, the dealer or us, were quite sure how many cards there were and how much dollars we were talking about, right? So we then had to go take everything out of every single one of his showcases, pile it all up, add it all up, essentially kind of inventory all of it as we go. and get to the point where we have, inventoried everything and we have a total price. And it took some time to do that. Then you guys had to figure out how to get all of that back to Atlanta, which was another challenge. I was going through the airport. I took a little bit back myself and was going through the airport myself with like 3 bags, like juggling them, large bags.
That's
trying
us
to go
every weekend, Jeff.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's crazy.
I think we went with, there were 3 of us and we went with 12 bags or something absurd. Yeah.
You should saw the rental car.
Yeah. Us, Mike, and I don't know how we fit everything in the rental car.
The airline must look at you guys and be like, where the heck are you going? Like
they ask every time.
Every time.
You got enough suitcases to you could fly around the world and probably live 80 days with as many suitcases as you have, but they're full of cards. They're not full of clothes. So that's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't, man. Yeah, TSA must. Oh, by the way, this is at the Philly airport. This is funny. I didn't tell you guys this. Coming back from the Philly airport, I, put my case on the security belt. And it goes through, and like often happens, probably about 50% of the time. I know other people have this happen to them as well. About 50% of the time, it gets flagged for, TSA's got to look inside the box because something's going on here. So there's this sweet lady, who's the TSA person, smaller, sweet lady, and you look at her, and you're like, yeah, this lady, she's going to open up this thing. She has no idea, what any of this is or why, what are these things? It's just, you just look at it, you're like, this is not a profile of anyone who ever has delved into sports cards. She opens my box up. She looks around. She goes, you got them all graded. I said, what? She goes, do you only collect graded? I'm like, what? Like, what is going on here? Then she starts pulling them out. She's like, you got a nice collection. Then she goes, you have any one-on-ones in here? I'm like, who are you? Like, who are you? You are the least likely person to know about sports cards, from just an appearance standpoint. And obviously it shows, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Clearly she knows something about collecting. She apparently collects TCG, because then she started talking to me about Logan Paul and buying the oh no, not Logan Paul. The sale of the ring card from Magic.
Oh yeah, Post Malone.
Post Malone. She starts talking to me about Post Malone and how we bought that card. And she knows TCG collecting, and so she knows enough. And so it's just funny. I just would never expect it, but when those types of things happen, I'm always encouraged, because it's always like, man, the world of collectors, like the world of people who like have some affinity for the hobby, whether it's sports cards or TCG, like that world is bigger than any of us, ever really quite, recognize. There's kind of, collectors everywhere, and, you learn more about that every single day. So
it's alive.
It's alive. It's definitely live. That's a lot of fun. Awesome. Well, what do we have coming up? I know, by the time this episode comes out, you guys will have gotten back from Columbus. Mm-hmm. And then you'll be on your way. This upcoming weekend, you guys will be in Huntsville, Alabama, right? A few days after this show comes out, you guys will be in Huntsville, Alabama. That's the last card show that we're going to be at this year.
Yep.
But if anyone out there happens to be anywhere in Alabama, if you wanted to sell your cards to CardsHQ, come to Huntsville, Alabama. That's this Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday at the Von Braun Convention Center.
Okay.
The Flip Trade Show, if you want to look it up on Facebook.
Flip Trade Show. Cool. And then we're taking a few weeks off for the holidays. We'll probably do some online buying to try to fill in gaps within cards that we need.
Yeah, a lot of specific strategic sourcing for sure.
Yeah. Maybe buy some collections off of people who hit us up on Instagram at CardsHQ Shop. And then it will be January. And then we're going to be a few weeks away from opening the actual store. It sounds crazy.
We have way too much to do. Like I have no life. Like I don't even have time to get a haircut, Jeff. Yeah. My hair's long. I need it cut, and I can't even make an appointment right now.
It is go time. It is hustle time. But these are the days. Like these are the days that you're going to look back on in a couple of years. And it's the store is going to become. There will become a point when it becomes routine. It's not going to feel that way for the first several months, but there will become a point when the store becomes routine and it becomes second nature, and it will become kind of like, it's like your everyday thing, right? And so 2 years from now, the store is going to feel routine, and you're going to think back to these days. You're going to think back to the hustle and the grind, the chaos, the absolute chaos and the craziness. And it's only going to ramp up because January is going to be just pure insanity, chaos. And at the time, it's going to feel overwhelming. And you're going to look back on it in 2 years and go, oh, I kind of miss those days.
Yeah. It's really funny. I had lunch with a friend yesterday, and he asked me, like, so what does your day look like? And I'm like, it's different every day right now. Like, I can't even tell you.
It's fun. I love it. I've
blast.
I've done the startup thing several times, not with a card shop, obviously, but like this is it. This is the entrepreneurial journey. You guys are going through the entrepreneurial journey, which is that there's 1,000 things to do, 1,000 different jobs to do, and you got to do all of it. Yep. And you got to figure it all, and you got to advance 1,000 balls, and you try to keep pushing them all up the hill so that you can finally get all of them up on top of the hill, and you try not to let any of them kind of fall back, while you're pushing the rest up the hill. You just do the best you can with it. And
yeah, and we can't take all the credit. I mean, we got to give credit to Mike. We got to give credit to the whole SEI team.
Yeah.
We're all grinding around here.
Yeah, we're going to give a lot of credit to the staff that's joining us here real soon.
Yeah, that's right. 100%. 100%. We are fortunate to be in the position to have a great team at Sports Card Investor, to have already hired our general manager for Pokemon. You're referencing Mike. In fact, we're going to have him here on the Geoff Wilson Show in the next, I think next week, maybe he'll be on the Geoff Wilson Show. And we're going to talk about Pokemon and trading card games and that whole side of the store and everything that goes on in that world, because I'm excited to learn more. I got to learn more about that. That's a world that I don't know as much about. So we're going to have him on. And and we just hired our first retail manager for the store. So he's getting on board now to help us out. And so we've got good help around us between the folks we're hiring and the Sports Card Investor team for sure. And that's going to be unbelievably helpful and necessary because there's a lot to do. So anyway, all right, we're going to wrap up, guys. This was a lot of fun. Get some sleep while you still can, even though you can't get much right now. And for everybody out there watching, we appreciate you watching another episode of the Geoff Wilson Show. And just a reminder, you can get the full-length shows on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as on YouTube under the Geoff Wilson Show. So make sure to subscribe everywhere, and we'll see you next week with our next one. Take care.